I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. All right, what's up, world? Welcome to another edition of the football special show. What were we calling it? Something. We had come up with a
Something,
name.
yes.
Somebody had come up with a name. But I wanted to start off with our new sponsor by acknowledging our new sponsor. It's going to take us into a new level of development here. So what's up, Mutanda, Daniel, Robert? Welcome everybody. To those joining us, please do like, share, subscribe. Welcome. What's up? How you all doing?
Firstly, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure. I'm all right. I'm all right. How you guys? How you guys? How you guys? How you doing?
We're hanging.
Hanging is right. Are we? Can you hear me? We're all good.
Yeah.
All right.
Something about I don't know, you all sound a little bit far away, but I don't know. Sounds about right. Sounds about right. Um but anyway, congratulations on the promo, Mutanda. Looks dope. I don't think it displayed like I thought it would on here, but
Yeah, I was gonna say it
uh
looked cut off. I was. I don't. Yeah.
yeah, but the link
You,
to your program is in the show description, so folks should check it out. And yeah, somebody's outside. Somebody got the kids outside.
Not me. Daniel. You got the kids outside. Robert.
My kids are long gone, man.
I don't know what I'm hearing. Then I'm hearing somebody's kids
I
or
did thought I
children
heard. I thought I
playing.
heard. I heard. I heard. I heard sounds in the background, but
Yeah, children
it's all
children
good. It's
playing or
all
something.
good.
But yeah. So what's up? How we doing? How do we want to get started this evening?
I felt there was beef, so I want to start with the
There
beef.
was there was beef. The chat was it was beef in the
I don't know.
chat.
I want to start with the beef. So let's let Robert get his headphones in, and then we can proceed.
Well, let's start. Let's start with this question. If you don't, if because I want to be clear about something, and then because this might help explain beef to what extent there's beef. Um, are we? I thought we had maybe debunked is not the right word, but at least come to some sort of a consensus on something. But then it reared up, and I'm not sure. So I would like from anybody clarification on something that was put in the chat a little bit ago that I did respond to, but then didn't get a response to that. Not that I expected one necessarily, but that's part of why I thought, okay, maybe this was dealt with. And it was about Bo Jackson, Dion, Michael Vick, Allen Iverson, U.S. winning World Cups. Somebody clarify for me what was going on with that.
I didn't put that there, and I might have missed it. There was a lot. A lot has been going on, so I might have not followed up on that one too closely. But does that ring a bell? I'm scrolling back through now.
I am too. I don't remember that one.
I think
Did
it was.
somebody post something?
I think it was from you, Robert.
What did I post?
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm saying I think it was.
Hold on.
And just yeah,
Do you see it?
No, but I'm just. I'm, is there a way to search? Isn't there a way to search the
Yeah.
chat?
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
No, the one that I remember is you.
Are
Oh,
we
here
all
it
Oh
is.
connected
wait,
through our
wait,
phone?
wait, wait! I see. Okay, I found
You said
something.
something about football legends talk about Messi. That's the only
Yeah,
one.
No,
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 here it
no,
is.
no.
You
Dion
see it?
Bo cocaine sniffing ref. What happened?
No. So
Oh,
here's it.
that's right. That ref. Oh, that was supposed to be the rundown.
I'm gonna put it in the chat again, but like make it. I'm gonna post it right now.
Oh no,
No,
Robert
bro.
did post.
Robert sent a
Robert
whole
did send
essay.
it.
Robert sent
Yeah,
a
yeah.
whole essay
But
that
this what I
starts
just
out.
posted. What I just posted is coming from Robert, so I just posted it. I reposted it. So yeah, you can see that.
Okay, okay, Robert. Okay, you talking about Robert's interesting comments about Bo Jackson? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm saying.
All right. So
Well,
let me play. Let me play the clip that he sent. That this is Robert. This is the clip you sent.
mm,
Just so. Just so that prep or that came with the
Of
whatchamacallit.
all the sports that you played, football, basketball, track and field, baseball, what was the easiest sport for you?
Easiest sport was football,
What was the hardest?
baseball.
You told me the hardest thing to do is hit that ball, man.
That ball does some things to you. Any sport that you could fail 7 out of 10 times and become
Great.
and make $200-300 million in it, that's a hard sport.
What made you want to decide to stick with baseball, even though you had this great football career?
The challenge, man. I love challenges, and I could not master it, and it frustrated me because I hate to lose, and I hate not mastering something that I know if I just had more time.
All right. And then Robert, are you okay with us reading what you sent?
What I said, yeah. You mean what do you mean?
Your comment.
My comment into which one? Because I
okay,
had a
you
comment.
You
I had
sent
a
this
comment.
video and then a comment.
Okay, well, let me see. I didn't see where the comment was. Yeah, I don't have. What did the
I
comment
just
say?
reposted the comment.
In WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
We
not
can't
you
just
want
pull.
me
We can't just pull
Yeah,
up the
sure.
what. We can't just pull up
Sure.
the WhatsApp.
I don't have a
We
problem.
can. I have it. I just want to make sure we have permission because it's a private
Sure.
chat. I don't want to
Sure,
just be pulling
sure.
up the chat.
Sure.
You know, I'm not just going to just pull it up without, And then
Open the
how
chat
do I
for the people, man.
Well, hold on. Well, hold on because wait a minute because then hold on because then I got my other chats up there too now. Hold on a
I'm
second.
not just
True,
gonna,
true.
put my feet up on somebody's couch, and just,
Nah.
Yeah, I remember.
I don't need to have all my chats. I don't need to have all. Hold up. I'm not sharing that. I'm not sharing that. I don't need to have all my chats on the screen. All right. This conversations I'm having. I don't need people to know I'm having these conversations with certain people and I can't move it around. So, all right. So if I can read it, I'll just read it. And Robert, what you said was interesting comments about Bo Jackson. So that part I'm missing. A multi-sport athlete at the highest level. Dion, also multi-sport athlete at the highest level, is 185 meters or 6 feet 195 pounds. You can't tell me if Dion, had been exposed to football, the round ball kind, he would not have been a world-class player, as would have Allen Iverson, Michael Vick, and Bo Jackson. The USA would have won the World Cup, even several a long time ago.
So
Jared, man, I tell you, Jared is gone.
I thought we made it through this, guys. Well,
That's an old conversation.
So here's another 2 hours on this.
No, you
strap in.
You just sent it though.
Yeah.
What?
Strap in.
Go ahead, Robert.
You
Sorry, I
just
didn't mean to
sent
cut. Go
it.
ahead, Robert.
I mean, this is a comment from I don't know how many 2 or 3 months ago, right?
No.
Okay,
Nah.
so
This is- It's
I don't
in the
know what the date
last.
was.
It's in between the last show we did and this one for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sunday,
So
November 17th. Sunday, November 17th.
The argument here is pretty clear that I mean this is the old discussion we had several months ago
Yeah.
where Jared Mutanda got into it for an extended period of time. I mean, I'm just reemphasizing the key point. Black folks have been excluded from the sport, and if they had not been excluded from the sport, it would have been a different situation. So, I mean, is that controversial?
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
on
Assuming,
here,
assuming just to like you know, pick up on Mutanda's, you know, obvious response. As long as these kids were exposed to the sport from the age of 3 or 4 years old, you know, if they had that kind of exposure, yeah,
now,
they would be world
one thing
class.
before you go, Mutanda. The one thought I was just having was that what if at some point Dion had in his life been exposed to world football and then was asked that same question, and maybe what if he had said that was harder for me to pick up than baseball? That's where I thought like Mutanda was going to would have gotten a little a win in that he would have been it would have been this world class athlete admitting of all the sports, that's the one I can't get.
Yeah, I don't think that would have happened. Let me tell you why. Because the number of people who can play this sport is literally in the hundreds of millions, if not billions. Anybody can play it. So, I don't think that response would have been his response. I think his response would have been, who we're fantasizing here. But I still think he would probably say that baseball is a hard sport because, like he said, if you're hitting 300, you're damn near in the Hall of Fame. So it still would have been a challenge. I think that the question is, despite the fact that billions can play this sport on the beach or in the park or anywhere, the people who excel, people who are world class, like Zidane or whoever else we're talking about, that's a level that very few reach. My question is, I have no doubt about it, but my question is, why wouldn't somebody like Allen Iverson or Michael Vick, who had been exposed to the sport the same kind of way that Zidane had been exposed to the sport, why wouldn't he have been at that level? I think he would have been. It's just a matter of opinion. We'll never know. What I think is hilarious is how much mileage you guys get out of this. I mean, Jared is about to fall on the floor here.
What mileage? You're the one that put it in the chat. I didn't say it.
No, I
all I said was
responded to something that Mutanda sent.
Oh, that was a response?
No,
that was a
wasn't
response.
That was unprompted. I responded to that. Let's get this straight, because this is part of what we don't. And this is the thing: we don't have to. This isn't.
No, I'm seeing us going back and forth about soundtrack to a coup.
Yeah. That was it. Yeah. That wasn't back and forth. That was we want to see.
Or
that.
just a discussion. I mean,
well, you're the only one that saw that movie, though.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I had started a conversation about it in the chat, and and there was not a back and forth like in a debate, but there was a discussion of it. And before that was Daniel sending the coked up ref, which I do want to get to because I know we're late on that, but it's hilarious to me. And then and then you just dropped that in there out of nowhere, Robert.
Yeah,
so
that was unprompted. Exactly.
So okay, this
let's.
This is what happens in our this just for the people's edification. This is what happens in our chat. So there are conversations that we bring from this quartet to social media and vice versa. But then occasionally, just to kind of keep the chat going, what I've noticed is Mutanda and Robert primarily will just throw in these like Instagram videos of just highlights. So it could be Brazilian footballers, it could be young American starlets that have like been bought by Manchester City Academy or what have you. And then sometimes those conversations kind of evolve, so to speak. So that's kind of how it works. So at any time of day, Robert might just send some Allen Iverson clip or something, or Mutanda might send this 12-year-old kid that's been purchased by the Bayern Munich Academy or something. So that's kind of what's going on here.
Yeah, but thank you for that.
Is that I mean, I don't think it's an oversimplification, but
So this is my. So thank you for bringing the people up to date. Now to bring them up to date even more, because there was a response to what Robert posted.
And this this was it. This is the tweet you're talking about.
This is
From Arsene?
my. It's from Arsene Wenger. Yes, yes. Now go. You can. Before you play it, I want to get something straight. Is there something Robert said that, and I think this is why the beef exists. To the degree that there's beef, but I just think there's a degree of there's an argument. My beef is with the argument, with how the argument is being laid out. It's not even so much the argument, because the argument is flawed on its face, but it's also how it's laid out. So again,
What argument is flawed on his face?
I'll let you know. You said, so you can't tell me if Dion, had been exposed to football, the round ball kind, he would not have been a world-class player. So again, nobody refutes. I want to be clear. And you bring up, I think there's some revisionism about the conversation we had before when you claim, Jared and I were going back and forth. We were going back and forth because, to be frank, there was an argument that I was having and there was an argument Jared was having. And we were not on the same page. In terms of what this is about for me, I'm just saying for me, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. For me, this is not a debate about the prowess of the black athlete. And that's where I think a lot of this has been misconstrued. Nobody, certainly not myself, and I remember because for a while it was like Daniel and I against Robert and Jared for a little bit, right? In the chat and even on here. And then some things were cleared up. But I'll just speak personally, right? For me, this is not about whether Dion was an excellent athlete or Bo Jackson or any of these people that you've named. It's about skill acquisition. So when you make the claim here, and I'm just reading verbatim, so if I get what you're saying wrong, please change, but I'm literally reading off the page. So, as would have Allen Iverson, Michael Vick, and Bo Jackson, the USA would have won a World Cup, even several, a long time ago. That's such a wild thing to say.
Okay, so let me clarify the confusion.
I literally just read what you said. I literally just read what you said. I didn't change any words.
I'm not asking you to.
Cool. So what I'm saying to you is this is my issue with it. And that's why I responded with what I responded. I didn't say in what I responded when I put the quote with Arsene Wenger talking about technique and how it has to be developed early is because in our previous conversation when we went over this, that was one of the points that was completely unacknowledged at first or even made fun of. Jared made a point of even mocking the point when I brought it up the first time. Oh, Mutanda thinks this is an early engagement sport. Guess what? It is. And here's why this is important, right? And I know we moved on and I think we found some consensus, but then it reared up again. I'm like, wait a second. Did people actually get it or not? If Dion had been exposed to football from a young age, who knows if he would have been world-class or not? Maybe. But here's the thing. Part of the reason why people bring up this argument about these superstar black athletes is because of a paradigm that they're viewing the game with that actually doesn't fit. It doesn't work. So the reason you bring up Dion, and you say it, he's a dual athlete. You bring up the quote about him hitting a baseball and how that's hard. And here's the simple question. I'll end with this. The question that you have to answer is, what evidence do you have that suggests that being able to hit a baseball translates to being successful in soccer? Because this is essentially what you're saying. Oh, because these guys are doing
what?
You're propping them up because they're amazing dual sport athletes.
Mutanda, hold on. Now, are you got a doobie over there next to you?
No.
Let's not disparage the cannabis.
I mean, I'm just I don't understand where that comes from. I don't understand where that comes from.
Then here's the question: why these guys specifically? Why these guys?
Look, let me qualify this and hopefully qualify it definitively. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually also in response to Jeromeo Prescott, who I think made some good comments here. First of all, the United States doesn't have a football culture. Has never had.
But go ahead. That's not
as far as I'm concerned, it's never had a football culture.
As far as you're concerned,
okay?
Thank you for saying that. As far as you're concerned,
that's my opinion.
Like that,
as far as I'm concerned, that nonsense that you call MLS is not a football culture.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
This school, I gotta be France. I mean, come on.
But this is good because this is the beef. I just want to be clear that's according to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. It's according to me. It's my opinion.
Your
My
opinion.
opinion of what's going on in the United States, I wrote an entire book about this. I would like to encourage the audience to buy the book.
Links in
But
the show description.
the truth of the matter is that we don't have a football culture. If it was an egalitarian football culture where everybody had access to the sport and it had been rebranded and restructured in terms of its business models and opened up to the entire country, because the way it's structured now, it's not open to the entire country. Okay. Having said that, if in fact we could create that culture of football and it was literally permeating down to the grassroots in all parts of the country, and we flash forward with some kind of, time machine, or flash backwards in some kind of time machine and say, look, what would, kids from inner city Baltimore or wherever Michael Vick is from, if they had exposure to that sport in the same kind of way they had exposure to American football, basketball, and baseball, and those respective sports were on a par, that is to say, baseball, American football, and basketball, respectively, are the three best leagues in those respective sports in the world. If we had a league in the United States that was a world-class league at the level of those other leagues, and it involved the money, so money wasn't an issue, and that money was quote unquote obvious to inner city kids, and black inner city kids could play it as well as kids in the body or whatever else, yeah, I think we would have won a World Cup by now, because I think athletes would have migrated to that sport in a way that they've never migrated before. And of course, aside from the fact that they've been purposefully banned from playing the damn sport. So, in other words, yeah, you got to start early. I totally agree. You're not going to start this sport at the age of 15 and be a world-class player.
What if Mutanda Roberts' argument was amended to not say would have won a World Cup by now, but simply to say the U.S. would be markedly better and in the world? Would that make any difference in how you receive his argument? And which is probably very close to mine, if not mine still. Yeah.
But here's the issue. Here's the issue. All of us enter this space with a certain with a very similar politics, right? I think we all understand. So this happened before. What happened before is you're missing the point of there's an assumption that you have that you're not challenging, right? And this is why. So the beef that we have, Robert, now I'm speaking directly to you. The beef that we have, to the degree that it's beef, is when you say something like what you've laid out, which again, 90%, maybe even more, I agree with and I understand. It's the assumption you make, right, with regards to the caliber of athlete that you think would be elevated if all of those things, man, there's a lot of ifs in your statements, right? If all of those things happen, it's the insistence on certain athletes that you think would then elevate the U.S. to another level, but without acknowledging the fact that those athletes that you're promoting, they are a profile that is not necessarily required or reflected in other parts of the world that have been successful, right? So, for example, and I'll make it plain. You don't need to be, because you again, I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm reading what you posted in the chat, right? You mentioned the fact that Deion's 6 feet 1 inch. You give his weight, right? Bo Jackson, right? And then you say you can't tell me that if this. And again, it's a similar line of thinking that Jared had, where it was like, oh my goodness, look at the athleticism of these boys. When we went on for months, is because Jared, when you guys would be posting all of these athletic feats that these brothers are doing, and I'm like, yeah, that's great. And it's a simple question: is what does that have to do with football? I agree with you that if all of those things happen to make the game more equitable, 100%, you would see certainly a more diverse. Like, first of all, the U.S., even on the men's side, let's just focus on that real quick. The men's national team is not a white program. It's not. In spite of what you might say, it's not. And there's evidence. You can just do a Google search now of youth national teams and what it looks like, right?
The what say it again, it's not a white program, is that what you said?
It's not a white program. It hasn't been a white program for a long time. You look at the youth national team.
Does that mean that the analysis of it not being a white program is because there are black people who live in the suburbs who play the sport, or black people who have parents who have upper middle class incomes that play the sport? I mean, is that what you're trying to say?
They're black.
So in other words, being black is the issue. Is that the issue?
No, that's not
my issue. My issue is not about black people playing the sport. I mean, that's obviously something that's happening today. I mean, MLS has black Americans playing in the league now. They're black Americans that have been exported to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They're not world-class players. None of them. None of them.
That's an. I'm not. And I.
So in a country of 340 million people, so far, we've been unable to produce one man who is a world-class player, meaning that, and I define world-class player as a player who is going to start on whatever team at the club level and whatever team at the national level he's going to play for. There's never been an American man who fits that kind of caliber. There are no Neymars in the United States.
So it's
much less Messi's and.
Can I ask you a quick question though? Can I ask you a quick question? What does that have to do with the statement you made about the Deons and of this world? Then potentially, what does that have?
Mutanda, it's it's the question or the statement that I made is hypothetical. It's a question of what if things were different in the past? What if this sport was at the same level? Let's imagine, this year, the NFL is going to generate somewhere in the neighborhood of close to $20 billion in revenue. Major League Baseball will probably generate somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 13 billion. Basketball is somewhere in the neighborhood of 11 to 12 billion annually. Major League Soccer, by the best estimates, and I don't know how they get to this estimate, but supposedly Major League Soccer is going to generate something in the neighborhood of 2 billion. I don't know how they get to that number. I mean, I really don't. I have no clue about how they get to that number. The Apple TV contract is $250 million a year. How they multiply that by 8 to get to that overarching figure is anybody's guess. But the long and the short of it is that revenue is the name of the game. If you've got world-class revenue, you have a world-class league. Last year, Real Madrid generated more revenue than the entirety of Major League Soccer. Man City's payroll is roughly equal to the payroll of MLS's 29 teams. So it's not a world-class league by any stretch of the imagination. What I'm imagining, what I'm hoping people can imagine with me, is that if in fact the United States had a league that was the equivalent of the English Premier League or the Bundesliga, which are the two highest drawing leagues in the world in terms of the sport, and they paid those kinds of wages and had been doing so for 20 or 30 or 40 years, so that the quote unquote financial attractiveness of the sport had reached into the inner city and had reached into the barrios years ago, decades ago, the United States would be a different country in terms of the sport. That's all I'm saying. I don't see anything that's controversial in what I'm saying. It's a hypothetical. It's what would have happened but for.
Right. So here's the thing. It's a hypothetical, but this is the insistence on you don't. I think you're evading it a little bit, and yeah, I could be wrong, and you could just reject it out of hand. But this is what routinely happens, and this is what I remember happening before. And again, I understand your argument, and to an extent, I agree wholeheartedly with it. The issue becomes, and again, you have to answer. You still evaded one. You invaded the question. You keep bringing up something that I think we have consensus on. I understand that the money is different and money talks and all that. We're talking about I'll go back to what I posted so I can be more objective about this in terms of the response instead of just being whatever anecdotal. My response to you was to what you posted was in challenging the notion that the US would have won this hypothetical that you just said is a hypothetical. The issue with it is, yes, there's no evidence for what you're saying because it's a big leap. It's too big of a leap, right? Because it's interesting. On the one hand, right, this is what's fascinating to me. On the one hand, you say the United States has no football culture. You've called it a third world soccer country and all that. And then on the other, you say this hypothetical, right? You bring up this hypothetical and say, if all of these 15 different things happen, Bo Jackson and Allen Iverson and Michael Vick and all these other amazing athletes would have won the US a World Cup. I'm not sure from like a skill acquisition, like sports science, like soccer argument, how that makes any sense. Especially, and this is how I would qualify what I'm saying, especially when you look at other nations in the world who do have a football culture, and you would agree they have a football culture, including your own, right? Including the most successful international nation on the world, Brazil doesn't produce players that look like Bo Jackson. This is what I'm saying to you, right? You're not required. You're not required to be Allen Iverson to play football at an exceptional level. So that's kind of where I'm coming back to. Like, we've been over this. Like, it doesn't make sense.
So Mutanda, let me respond in the following way. And again, this is personal. It's my perspective. It may not be worth a plug nickel, but I've got three perspectives to offer. One, I grew up in the inner city. I played three sports in the inner city. Lamentably, football was not one of them. I played basketball, baseball, and American football. I played football in high school, and I played football in D1, American football. I moved to Brazil a long time ago. This is the largest black country outside of Africa. The talent that this country has produced for this sport, I would say the only thing that's equivalent to it is the amount of talent that the United States has produced for basketball. That would be a parallel analogy for me. The number of players that play the sport in Brazil are disproportionately black. They also start playing the sport when they're incredibly young, meaning 3, 4. I can say today, 2024, 25, whatever, it's a very different country than it was 30 years ago. The economic development that the country's gone through is staggering, and it has affected the sport. So it's affected how many people can play. It's affected the number of fields that are available. But having said all of that, Brazil is still producing a disproportionate number of players that get exported to Europe. So, going back to this issue of Bo Jackson, Bo Jackson built his body. Bo Jackson lifted weights. He pushed himself physically, which is one of the reasons he probably had an early termination to his career. But that aside, I think he's an anomaly because of what he did to his body in order to play American football. Interestingly enough, Allen Iverson also played American football in high school and was exceptional as a high school quarterback. But thank God, he got into I shouldn't say financial, but legal trouble. I think he was actually put in jail. And So he missed out on scholarships that he was offered in football, and his mother insisted that he give up football and go to basketball. So it was a change of circumstances. I think you can fairly say that Allen Iverson doesn't have the same body type that Bo Jackson had. Michael Vick, I think, also built his body up to play American football. But in terms of size, he's roughly Allen Iverson size. Maybe he's a little bit taller. I'm just saying that there are people like that in the inner city who have gotten passed over by this sport. And let's think about the future. Let's imagine that somebody buys out MLS, restructures MLS so that it does reach down into the grassroots, both in the barrios and the ghettos and what have you. And the sport 10, 15 years from now is attracting kids from the inner city. I don't think the United States is going to win a World Cup anytime soon, but they would at least be competitive in a way that they haven't been competitive in recent years.
Can I just say a couple things real quick? And then if we can, I'd like to break the cycle because I feel like it's just repeating. But one thing, Robert, that I want to slightly disagree with, Bo Jackson's career got ended because I think a 250-pound linebacker broke his hip in a tackle. It wasn't. I don't know that him overworking his body had anything to do with that. That's what really was the problem.
If I could be wrong, I think that's wrong. I could be wrong, but I think that's wrong. But go ahead.
Well, I mean, that's what happened. I mean, he was dominating baseball and dominating American football at the time of that injury, and I believe he was playing the Cincinnati Bengals, if I remember correctly, because I remember why. I mean, he was, so. But the flip side of that, though, he was listed. I just looked it up at 6'1", 230. To Robert's point, and this is where I do largely agree. Were all of these cultural and economic shifts the case? And really, I think this is, again, about the specific histories of colonization, where and when African people get colonized and how, and then the role of sports in that process. That has more to do with this than, where in the world we might find the best players. But just personally, without overwhelming talent and certainly no structural support, institutional support for my own physical development, I built my own body up in an attempt to play American football, specifically redesigning myself so that I could theoretically get on that field. It changed, obviously, the musculature, size, all of that and then because I just got fat and let it all go, I was up to 290 some pounds. Conversely, making many adjustments over time, at one point I was down to 197. My point is, if people are especially institutionally, culturally encouraged in one way or another, I have no doubt Bo Jackson from an earlier age could have redesigned his physique to support a world football career and been just as likely to excel in that sport as he did in others, given what he did in others. Where you and I bumped heads before, Mutanda, as I understood it, was that you were suggesting that world football is such a special kind of sport that conclusion I was reaching didn't hold. And I'm just simply saying I'm not there yet. I don't have that capacity to think that somebody could be as dominant in all of these sports when conditioned and targeting that trajectory and couldn't be just as likely to be good in another sport where they, but that said, there are some other things that came up that all right, but any of you can respond, and I just was endeavoring to get us off that carousel at some point. But yeah, go ahead.
Daniel, do you have something to say on it?
I've been done with this conversation for like 3 months. I thought we had, successfully
No,
moved
I
forward,
like
pressed
those.
forward,
Yeah.
endeavored through, and struggled through. So, but apparently I was wrong. Even now, I could make a response to Jared's point, but nothing I say is going to change anybody's minds because he just admitted that he can't get. He's
You can't
not
get-
ready at this moment to accept whatever information I would say. So, what point? There's no point.
That's beautiful. I actually that's the perfect.
But
thing.
let's be clear. It's because also I'm unconvinced by your evidence. It's not that I'm intellectually incapable of understanding. But go ahead.
Which evidence?
All the evidence you've ever put out in this
we
debate,
haven't
both of you, going back months, you have made arguments to the contrary. Please don't deny that. And all I'm saying is I've heard them and I'm unconvinced by them. So it's not that. So I'm trying to be a little bit self-deprecating here, but let's not go too far with it, Daniel. I get it. I get your argument. I just don't agree. All right, go ahead.
Equally, I'll say whatever idea that I feel like is correct. Clearly, I'm not capable of laying that idea in a way that could convince someone otherwise.
Yeah.
So it is almost my own fault in that way. But I've accepted that I'm not the correct messenger. So let's press forward.
Let me respond to the Bo Jackson question.
No, if I may actually, because you went and then he had a response to because he wanted to go something here. So I want to end it because we can end it, but I want to be clear. I want to be very, 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 very clear. We have agreement about the impacts of colonization and how that steers people towards different things. Complete alignment on that. Not disputing. We have agreement that people build up their bodies for whatever sport that they're in. Completely agree. Where what we obviously don't have alignment on, or what I think is interesting, and both of you, Robert and Jared, I think said, is there's a point we get where certain assumptions about the role of athleticism in soccer, once you narrow it down, right? Because there comes to a point where we're actually talking about like football and skill acquisition. And to the degree that we're talking about that, there's not alignment, and that's fine. Okay. But with everything else, we're aligned. I think for me, where my antenna maybe goes up and I'm like, well, wait a second. And this is why maybe part of it is the challenge of the medium of putting things in a chat, right? Where you just, read it and you have to respond based on what you see on the screen. But where my antenna goes up is with these hypotheticals that y'all are, because as much as you say you're unconvinced by the evidence that we put forward, again, I'm listening to Robert and even you, Jared. It's about hypotheticals and this would happen and what if this and what if that. It's all hypotheticals. Whereas I've always said from day one with this conversation that I'm not even that's a hypothetical that I can't affirm or deny because it's just hypothetical. It didn't happen. But what I can say is I'm very sure on something very specific. And that very specific narrow point is like, for me, the one in which gets washed over with statements like, but the US would have won a World Cup if this specific thing had happened, when it's like, yeah, but that's a big leap. And you're washing over some key steps that would take for that to happen. Right. And so that's where I'm like, yeah, to Daniel's point, I'm not interested in changing anybody's mind. But here's where personally, and I'll end with this, not to start more beef, but this is where beef comes in for me. I don't want gaslighting about points that you are not ready to discuss. So, Jared, what you finished off is beautiful. If you say I'm not ready to hear this point or I'm just not there, good. No more from me.
That's not what I was really saying. Let's be clear. Nobody's gaslighting you, Matanda. What I said, what I was trying to convey is, and I'll just be more clear. I was trying to be polite, but I'll be more clear. I'm unconvinced by your arguments.
Do you know what the argument is?
You have made so many of them to say, for instance, again, you've narrowed it. You've said that the game of football is so specific and different, and the cultures, the cultures that produce a will to play and a culture to play don't exist here as they do elsewhere, have led to what we've led to.
I've said that the game is so specific. I've said that the game is so specific to play because of the skill acquisition that would require to learn early age, which means that even by defining, because this whole thing got started about the term elite athlete, right? Great athletes. This is how it got started. And this was maybe the confusion here. So my point is that a 6-year-old is not an elite athlete. This is all I'm saying. So this is my point, is we don't need to talk about hypotheticals, because for all you guys talk about what if this, what if that, DeMarcus Beasley is one of the best players that this country's ever produced, right? And he's played now. Okay, he doesn't fit Robert's standard of elite player, and yeah, he didn't start at Real Madrid, didn't start at Barcelona. DeMarcus Beasley played in the Champions League. He played at the highest level of football.
He's a Black American, if anybody isn't aware.
He's a Black American. So he checks all of Robert's boxes except the world-class, definite, like Neymar status. He's not that. My point there is, DeMarcus Beasley, if you look at his there are a bunch of them in U.S. youth soccer. There's more than you want to acknowledge and that you affirm, even given, and I agree with you, that the sport isn't reaching the levels of access that want, certainly not a lot of kids, that would benefit a lot of kids. But what I point there in bringing up a DeMarcus Beasley is, and again, that's why I'm saying, I always said from the beginning, your guys' arguments aren't new with regards to the athletics, except for maybe the political side of it. But my point is, nobody ever brings up the skinny, goofy looking Black kids who end up being ballers because they don't fit the dual sport, American football, amazing athlete trope.
I actually don't think that I don't think that point is made in Robert or my own argument. It's simply saying, again, because part of your argument is that world football is decidedly different from other sports. So therefore being good in one sport.
It is, yeah.
And again, and you made the point about playing with the feet versus the hand and all of that. And all I'm saying is, I just don't believe that people who can be taught from an early age to become great in one sport can't be taught to that same skill acquisition in another sport. So when we're talking, and again, so I just keep coming back to, if the pool of the best potential athletes are directed to other sports, those left to play world football in this country will by default not be the best of the best.
Look, it's a question. But thank you, Jerry. So say that again. So if I understand you correctly, you're saying kids taught you have an issue with one kid being taught to be good at soccer, or other sports. Let's say baseball, whatever, can't be taught to be good at soccer. But my point to you is, you understand that there's a timing issue here, right? This is what I keep drumming on the when, because the when it happens is important. All I would say, and that's it. Because
right, and I agree, and that's all I keep saying.
Everybody here agrees with that.
Yeah, the when would be when that other kid gets moved into Pee Wee football or American football. That same kid would be moved into world football. That's exactly what I keep saying. And for Obi, to make the point that you all made before about Olajuwon starting basketball so late in life, my point would be, again, you're taking this exception to make the point, to make your rule. But my point would be, then where are the rest of these failed Nigerian world football players who come to the NBA and dominate? There should be a train, like a line of them. I mean, obviously, Olajuwon is a rare talent that, to me, makes the point going in reverse.
I think you're right. Yeah. Just to make it clear, I sent you guys a tape just now on WhatsApp about the incident that led to Bo Jackson's retirement.
Yeah, and I think you may have a point.
Really,
no, you're right.
Hit.
I'm gonna play it. No, you're right. I think you're right. I'm gonna play it for you. I think you're right. I remembered the team he was playing, but I think you might be right here. The hit doesn't look devastating. I don't know, but again, I don't know that.
It wasn't a hit. It wasn't really a hit.
I mean, he dragged down.
He got tackled from behind.
Yeah.
And his hip, the joint of his hip came out.
Right.
And then,
right, but it was American football tackle that created.
Oh, for sure.
So I don't know. Again, I don't know.
I mean, because you in this sport, as you know, in this sport, you can get hit, and I mean hit, and get knocked fucking out. Excuse my French, but it wasn't that kind of hit. I mean, he got rolled.
Mm-hmm.
The guy obviously held on to his foot, which put torque on his hip,
And
his
it's
hip
still a
got too-
230, 40-pound man dragging you to
Yeah.
the ground on Astro Pitch. And again, none of that's again got to be among the most unnatural
Was that on
things.
AstroTurf?
I
It probably
if
was.
even if it probably was because they were I think they were playing in Cincinnati who play on that, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Even if it was on plush green grass, it's still among the most unnatural things for human beings to be doing.
For sure.
So I don't think, but
Paul Smith just said Christian Pulisic is one of the few American players produced by America who is close to world class.
All right, but let's talk. That's a perfect time to segue because I'm ready to hate on his ass thoroughly.
Let me hate with you, but I think he is definitely better than Beasley. I mean, Beasley not even close to being that good. So, I mean, however you want to slice and dice it, but I'm not a big fan of Pulisic either. But he is the closest thing that the United States has produced so far. I think there are plenty of women, by the way, who are better than he is.
So there are no other American men who are on the level of Christian Pulisic.
No way. Who? Landon Donovan?
Okay.
Who would be? Who would it be?
Okay. You see, I didn't even want to
Tim
get into
Howard.
This,
No,
but
go ahead, Daniel.
Oh, that's another
Go ahead,
story.
Daniel.
Tim Howard
Okay.
is the best player that the United States has ever produced, in theory, right?
You know what?
He's
No.
goalie.
No, Daniel said. Why are you doing this?
Come
Why
on,
are you
Daniel.
here?
What are you vacillating about? You're just being cute.
They are ready to move on. So let's.
What do
just
you mean
move
they're
on.
No, go ahead, Dan. I mean, whatever.
If you're not going to say nothing, why are you
What are
here?
you holding back on?
Ooh,
All right. Okay.
man.
So damn, I'm being forced to speak. This is like not my life.
That's what you're here for.
No, normally I'm being compelled to shut the fuck up. But okay.
Not by me.
In usual life. What sport would Christian Pulisic translate to if it was basketball or the NFL? Do you think like you could see that body type playing?
How
I don't
tall
know,
is he?
linebacker or wide receiver
How tall
or
is he?
point guard or
Like
whatever.
5'10", 5'11".
No, but theoretically he could play,
play
point
baseball.
guard. Theoretically he could play baseball.
For sure.
Theoretically he could play tennis.
I mean, who knows?
But okay, but to your guys' point, those are both sports, I guess, that Black people are not pursued to play anymore, baseball and tennis. The two main portals in American sport that African people are ushered into is the NFL and basketball, even though basketball has 450 jobs and they're trying to put 3 million people into it.
And remember,
yeah, go for it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean. No, we asked you to talk. Go ahead, keep going.
No.
Finish your point.
It's a conversation, and I don't even know where I was going. I was done with the sentence, but then I'm just compelled to say "and."
My point that's important, that I think an important component to my own point is that in this country, and I would argue the same exists in Europe, but within world football is probably different. Anyway, at least in this country, what is important to understand is that white folks with money want to see Black people perform for them. So part of what drives Black people into the sports that they are driven into is the white affluent desire to see them playing those sports. And part of what makes American football positioned the way it is again, somewhat to Robert's point that he makes in his book, is that the American football is held at a certain level of prominence. I think a lot of it has to do with this country's culture of violence and all that, another thing, but also because it is a sport that no other country can dominate and control or claim ownership over. So with all of that in combination, this country wants to see Black people punishing themselves for the benefit of that white audience.
If I can add to that point, you can look at the way that fighting in sports are policed or even covered. When you look at NHL, fighting, because it's a majority white sport, they're allowed to police themselves through violence. In baseball, the bench is clear and they police themselves through violence because the violence of white people is almost accepted as, all right, it is what it is. When fights happen in basketball or the NFL, there's all this hand wringing and, oh my God, the society's gone bad because it's African people mostly doing the violence. So it's like, oh, no.
And because they know the malice in the palace might happen, and rich
Our-
whites are not afraid
our
of poor
Negroes are
whites
getting out
attacking
of
them.
hand. It's that kind of overseeing energy with especially American professional sports. So I always find it interesting that in hockey they can just fight, and
Right?
in baseball they can just fight. But like if Carmelo Anthony punches somebody, it's a curse on all society or something like that.
There's an interesting book that just came that I got recently.
Can't see the title. What's it say?
It's called
Playing
Playing
While
While White.
Oh, it's mirrored, so it's showing up
Oh,
backwards.
Backwards,
Wow.
yeah.
Right. Playing While White: Privilege and Power on and Off the Field, by David J. Leonard. Should be
Was it new?
really interesting. No, it's a while ago, but when was it? Anyway, no, I'm with you guys on all that. 2017 is from, so it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean the other controversy that was on WhatsApp this past few days was this issue of colonialism.
Well,
right? I mean,
yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
because but can we
Oh.
can we
we
do
can
the
hold that. We can
All
put
right.
that
No,
one
no,
off
go
the
ahead.
table
I
too.
wanted to hate on Pulisic for a few minutes, and I had like a couple things to pull up and whatever. But now
Go ahead.
This
Go
is-
ahead.
No, no,
Go-
no, no, no.
Go for it. Go for it.
All right. Well, just real quick, because I did. To me, this is again why I cannot. I will not root for this national team. Because this, and I've said before, because the white folks are too happy, and this is
Oh,
Pulisic
this is where he
scoring a
does the
goal,
Trump dance.
and he does the Trump dance, right? So you know,
Jesus
and then he tried to,
Christ.
and then he tried to claim that it was not,
It wasn't political.
You know, it wasn't
He just did it because
political.
it was funny.
He just did it because it was funny, and then I think we showed somewhere at some point that did we show it here last time that he is in fact a registered Republican?
Oh yeah, we did.
Okay, so we did mention that. Okay,
I just want to make it clear that Trump did not win the election. I just want to make that point clear.
Hold up, don't start with that, because then YouTube starts acting funny too. Don't start questioning the elections. We are fully in support of. Now, come on now, I'm just playing. Like, I'm actually not playing. They don't play around on YouTube. Don't start. You will
can't have an opinion on YouTube anymore.
Nah, you can't have an opinion on YouTube, especially about U.S. elections, and you cannot question them. And why would we? This country is perfect. It has never made a mistake ever once. And
You gotta throw allegedly on those, Robert. You know.
No, you can't even do that, man. Just leave it alone, man. Let that. But I wanted to. I found this Uruguayan.
She is out there.
Anti-Conquista is the name of her YouTube channel, and I just wanted to play
this. She is totally out there.
This is this is her response. I just wanted to play a little bit of
anyone
this
to be shocked that happened, like,
Pulisic
embarrassing for
dance.
you, okay? Because like it's obvious the man has been a Trump supporter. The man has been a fascist since his existence, okay? And then people are being like, "Oh, he's just being silly. Oh, it's just a dance. Oh, it's just this. Oh, it's just this." Like, okay, y'all can, if you want to defend a fascist, like, please, just be upfront about it. You want to defend a fascist? Don't act like you care about social justice in any other motherfucking way. First of all, social justice under capitalism is not possible. It's incompatible. Right? And those motherfuckers are capitalists. All of them are. Even the ones who are people of color on the men's national team are still fascists, okay? Because fascism goes beyond color, beyond nationality, and this is why we don't do identity politics, okay? We do intersectionality in this house, because that explains the difference. When people are like, "Oh, I don't know why so many Latinos voted for Trump," you don't? Because I do. Because this country attracts fascists from all over the world, and fascism's global. So of course it makes sense. Also misogyny, all of those things.
All right. So I just wanted to. I enjoyed her little bit of hate there, wherever wherever our differences might end up. But I also like that in that stream she talked about the importance of acknowledging why Maradona is so great and should be admired, because in addition to his skill on the field, he had a tattoo of Che. I think didn't I put in the chat that they both die on the same date or something like that? It was Fidel or something like that. So she goes into all that. I was digging that. And then just very lastly, why I like that one point that she made about don't front. And I'm not going to play any of this, but salute to Tim Howard, because he called out Pulisic and said, you know, don't front like this is, oh yeah, that's when Pulisic was denying it, and then Tim Howard came back at him and said, don't front like this is not political. And stand on your, and it's the same thing Bomani Jones ended up saying to what's his name that plays for the 49ers. You're faking like, you represent these politics, but that you don't want to Bosa. That's right, Nick Bosa. You don't want, but if you rock with Trump, stand up there and, stand on your word. Don't hide from it. Don't deny it. But anyway, I just wanted to, that's it. Unless any
How
of
do
you
you feel
want
about Bomani Jones? Actually, that might be like just.
I'm a big fan of Bomani Jones, actually, and I think, and I've said for a long time, in terms of commercial media, I think he's done as well as I've ever seen in terms of managing some thoughtful analysis and some good conversation on race in particular, given that much of his audience is white. And that he's targeting an ESPN and has been targeting an ESPN audience. I think he's brilliant.
He's the best tightrope walker in that place I think I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's
finely, but well.
But that being said, I think he might even deserve more credit than that, in the sense that he's managed. But to your point, Daniel, he's managed to make it not seem so much like a tightrope. Like, he's crafted a space for himself where on occasion, he does things that you're like, and he says things that you're like, I get what he's saying. And he's speaking to it because he knows whose audience. He knows who's paying him, but I think he also knows how to speak to like people in this room in terms of the.
Oh yeah.
Because he's grown up in it. Like, I think his father was one of the first political scientists that graduated from something, and his mother was there.
I'm a fan of Bomani. I'm a fan. Yeah.
I've never heard of Bomani. What does he do?
Really?
I'm in Brazil, bro.
I mean, but still, if it happens in the United States, it's got to be important everywhere, I would think, right?
Yeah, right.
He's just he's a sports commentator.
Who's he with?
He used to be on ESPN, but now he has his own YouTube channel, just like everybody else. I'll pull it up here. Okay. And
there it is. Yeah, his dad is Mac Jones, who was a great friend of Walter.
The Right Time with
That's interesting.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones. I'm not surprised to hear that.
Does he talk about football or no?
No.
Actually, no.
Not really.
But he says some interesting things about football that I'm like, or about American football, which would be instructive for some of our conversations. But it's more akin. It's simply put, he's like, America doesn't, compared to these other sports, it doesn't care that much.
Yeah. Nah.
That's pretty much what he says.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So that's another reason why you wouldn't know who he is. But when I used to listen to him on the way home from work on ESPN radio, I that's where I really became a big fan, because I just thought the way he dealt with, Alabama sports fan callers and all that kind of stuff, and in a way that was never demeaning to a correct side of politics and history. He was able to not disrespect self or real politics, while also not upsetting them in a way that got him fired, or at least, So I appreciate what he does, and I definitely could never do it. And I do acknowledge when I see people doing something I could never do.
So is this like the black Dave Zirin? I mean, what are you saying?
No.
I wouldn't say that. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that his politics are that different from Zirin, but he's I don't know, a cool black.
Somebody put it in the chat. He's the black Max Kellerman. I think that's probably more
black
on the
Max
That's interesting,
Kellerman.
because
Okay.
Max Kellerman is the black Stephen A. Smith.
One of the funniest things I saw on your channel, Jared, was when you guys, it was a while ago, you guys went in on Stephen A. and it was hilarious. But it was when I think he was talking about, maybe he was talking about Jerry Jones or somebody in the NFL sphere got caught with a hot mic, like saying something. And then Stephen was like,
defending him.
The next day defending it. And he was like,
Yeah.
but the way he defended it, right? He was like, last time I checked, he was working for us at ESPN. And y'all just had a field day. I'm like,
Was that the thing where Jerry Jones was caught? Like there was a picture of him when a school in Texas, I think, was being integrated, and there was a
Yeah.
protest.
Oh, that was a long time ago. That was
yeah.
when,
maybe
that was in the
But
of-
that's
of-
when that picture
of
resurfaced,
whites,
though.
and then there was a picture
Mhm.
of Jerry Jones, and he said, "I just went to check it out."
I just went to
Right.
yeah, I just, you know, and then
It's like-
later I
it's
went, I
like
just went
going-
to check
I
out.
just-
I
the
just so
lynching,
happened
too.
to be
I
in the
just-
angry white mob, you know.
Exactly. I was
I
just
didn't
checking
mean
out the
to be
lynching.
there, but you
Yeah,
know.
I just hang out at the back of the
but Stephen A came up like, well, listen, like he's a good dude. I know him. And last time I checked, he was working for us.
No, but I had so what
It
I
was
think,
no, hold
go
on,
ahead.
sorry. It wasn't I think we have it wrong. I think it was Gruden. It wasn't Jerry Jones. Wasn't it Gruden? It was John Gruden with the Raiders, right? And all that stuff came out, and then Stephen A was defending him. Wasn't it that?
No.
It was both. It could have been both.
It would have been
to
both,
be
but he
honest.
was definitely defending Jerry Jones when
Okay,
Jerry
all right.
Jones got called out of being in that picture and stuff like that.
I don't know how you could defend John Gruden based on what
I swear I thought he did, but
Yeah, I don't think he would have done that. My
But
goodness.
I
But who knows?
but Stephen A.
that
Smith
John
again,
Gruden stuff is wild, bro.
They never got to the bottom of it. They quashed it.
I mean,
No, because
I
it
would
never was
wager
about-
that is probably more behind the Washington football team's name change than anything
no,
to do with.
that's the point. That was all about Dan Snyder and his beef with the league.
Yeah.
They didn't want to get John Gruden. This was almost it was almost they were almost forced to because Snyder basically tried to snitch on as many people as he could.
Yeah,
Whatever
bro,
happened to the lawsuit of the brother that
he
was
called the
head of
commissioner a
Dolphins?
homophobic slur. He said that the president of the NFL Players Association had N-word lips or something like that. They
Yeah.
were talking about having
Oh,
sex
Morris
with
Smith.
cheerleaders.
Yeah, but
Those
I'm-
emails and on company email, no less. Like those got bold
Yeah, they
in their-
quashed it.
in their
I
offenses.
think there was a
It's
timing
crazy.
here where I think there was a time where Stephen A came out initially and defended him, and then as more things started, it was like, okay, I can't.
But years ago, before Bill Cosby's downfall for the pills and the abuse of women, when he was still doing his anti-black, anti-poor tour of the United States, you know, with his Come On People book with Alvin Toussaint, the Harvard professor, promoting this idea that black people need to come on people, you know, get yourselves together because it's your, you know, pull your pants up, fix your names, all that stuff. Stephen A. Smith, I ran into him at a National Association of Black Journalists conference, I think the last one I ever went to. And Smith defended him. And like I saw Smith and I still think it's funny because I was supposed to be interviewing Amy Goodman and I saw Stephen A. Smith pop up. I told Amy, I said, hold on, let me get back. And I think she was offended by that. And I went and you know, Stephen A., I was like, my man, you know, like what's up? And then
Where's
I
Amy
forgot.
Goodman at NABJ?
She was there because the real story was she was there to cover Jesse Jackson being there, and he was supposed to give some big speech. And you know, she used to dabble, and then it was also, I think it may not have been NABJ at the time, may have been Unity, when you also had the Latino journalists and the Asian journal, and everybody was at the people of color. It might have been one of those things. But I was like, I'm not. You know, once I saw Stephen A., I was like, let me rap with him real quick. And then I forgot how we got there, and he quickly started defending Cosby and this very conservative, anti-black, anti-poor, anti-progressive kind of politics. And we had a few words about it. Used to be on a mixtape somewhere. But my point is, he's exposed himself as a conservative kind of, you know, fake. You know, he just does the black bluster to present himself as more thoughtful and progressive and a man of the people, but his politics are really right wing. And I think when he starts running his political career for real, we'll see that more clearly, because I think he's planning on running for office, if I'm not mistaken, at some point.
Wow.
That man said he would only run to be president.
Stephen A.?
Yeah. He said he'd only run to be president.
Well, who else will carry on Trump's legacy in you know, next time around? Who better? You know what I mean? So okay.
A man who says I'm a capitalist. I was like, do you own anything, bro?
And yeah, I think literally it was the last time Amy, you know, she never returned. I tried to follow up with her later. She didn't return my calls or my text or whatever. And then, you know, anyway, this is years ago, but it's all good. But so now the issue of the colonialism in the chat, because it's already, you know, I'm already past my bedtime. So it must be crazy. How late is it where Robert is?
10:15.
All right. So listen, Mutanda was saying, actually, I forgot what you were arguing about. And then how did this even start? What was the argument about again?
Mutanda said a video of a number of people
Oh, right,
commenting
praising
how
Messi.
great Messi was.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can I explain?
I really just wanted to,
go ahead, Jared. What do you got?
I just wanted to. All I wanted to inject into as a preface for the audience was that Mutanda sent something in the chat. You can clarify all that.
Yeah,
the back and forth ensued, and then Robert, you jump out there with these aggressive accusations,
right?
That now, Mutanda, be fair now, I think if Robert makes the argument differently, it might resonate and make a little bit more sense. But it comes across as very direct and personal.
I would love to hear it.
I'm so sorry. I had no intention of making it
Stop
personal.
it. No, stop.
I mean,
stop. We're all grown ass
don't
men.
do that, man. Don't do that, man.
Stop. Don't
do
do
that.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Stop. Nobody's took it that personal. It's related to the conversation that we don't need to go back to.
No. If anything, just to be fair, I took personal something Mutanda said as a joke that I did not see as a joke at the time, and I went.
But this was Haiti. This was Haiti.
This was the Haiti and the mulattoes.
But then that was on me. That was on me, and I apologize because
no. There was. But my point is, you didn't need to apologize. My point is, I have no problem admitting that I was for a number of, I think, legit reasons that had nothing to do with us in a whole other defensive and sensitive space. So you said that, and I jumped fully overboard.
No, you did.
But did you see this comment in the chat?
Which one? No.
Jared is kind of like.
Jared is colonizing the Congo, conquering and dividing Robert and Mutanda, just like mulattoes do.
No, come on now, Jared. Don't let it go.
I'll just play.
Man.
Go ahead, Robert. Go ahead.
That's how it happened.
No, man. You know, there are times. Living.
Can I give the history? Just quickly, Robert.
Sure,
because I'm reading the conversation. So I don't know. It was maybe a couple months ago. I asked if anybody had seen Soundtrack to a Coup because I thought it was just a movie that was out.
And Coup d'etat, because Elon keeps killing me in the chat.
And nobody has seen it. And I sent the dates when it was in different areas. And I think Jared then went to see it. So I asked how the movie was.
Yes.
And he said it was great. And the doc was amazing. And then Robert jumped in and said, hopefully there will be a link to the full movie. I can guarantee that movie will never be admitted for showing in Brazil.
Yes.
And then that led to a conversation of Raul Peck's Exterminate the Brutes.
Yes.
I Am Not Your Negro and the Young Karl Marx. And then we said we were hoping that Raul Peck might do something about the Haitian Revolution, maybe called the Black Jacobin. and then I said Jared and I wouldn't make it, kind of making a joke off based on it was a jibe, saying that mixed race people in Haiti at the time were more problematic. So maybe he and I wouldn't make it, and then that led to some devolution of conversation.
Well, the next piece was me jumping in.
Robert. No. The next one, Robert said there were a lot of people like you and Jared deeply involved in that revolution. And then Mutanda said, clarify, fucking everything up. So that's
yes.
Showing a picture from Black Jacobins, which is a scathing chapter. And then I went into my piece about, the whole, let's get specific and let's not do this whole thing. Mulattoes being the betrayers of every revolution. I was calling out this and that.
And then I even pulled up
CLR James's wife. I did a Kamal and was like, he's even producing the traitors that he's writing about in his books. It was a mess.
when
That's
I
the
read all
backstory.
that,
That's the backstory.
when I
Okay.
read all that, Jared, that you put in there, I was just like, damn. Like I was like, this brother is hurt. I am sorry. And that's what I
Damn
was like,
right. I'm
no, and
traumatized by my racial experience and what this country's colonization has done. I have no qualms in admitting that shit.
And I said sorry. I apologize. I backed off of it. So I don't know if that has to do with what Robert's with the colonialism.
No.
Yeah.
But
No.
Roberts.
No.
Wasn't that the trigger that led to colonialism?
No. Robert. No.
Oh.
See, actually, no. Roberts brought colonialism in to condemn Mutanda's argument about what. Now I can't remember that what you all were arguing about.
No, hold on.
Well, then I'm
what you
sorry.
said
I'm
to him.
sorry. I'm
Back up.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Mutanda said a video,
There you go, bring up
and
old
the
shit.
picture on the video is Zidane. And Zidane is one of the people that's interviewed. There are, I would say, probably a dozen people that are interviewed. All of them.
It was the Messi Pele argument. That's where we got back on it.
Okay.
You're right. So he sent this Zidane video.
It was strictly about Messi. Pele wasn't really involved.
Cool. See, I thought it was my fault.
The debate we were having in the chat was about the Messi Pele debate. Who's the GOAT? And then Mutanda sent this video with Zidane and all these Europeans saying that Messi is the best ever. They weren't comparing him to Pele or anyone else.
They're not all European, but yes.
Well, and that they mostly played in Europe. That was the part I took from it, that they played in Europe and as opposed to just being European. And that was where I saw the bias that Robert was talking about.
Interesting, because but
so my spiel with the response to the video was, it's an awful thing to say, but I don't need a bunch of European colonists to tell me how good Messi is. So, but I also said that European football would be a mediocre product if it was not for the fact that they have basically bought the talent, literally money, bought the talent from Latin America and Africa to make European football what it is. And without that talent from Latin America and Africa, European football would be trending in the direction of mediocrity. And I still believe that.
What evidence do you have to support that claim?
Well, I mean, Mutanda, there's no evidence. I mean, okay, how, come on. I mean, that's like, when did you stop beating your wife? When did you stop beating your wife?
Oh, damn.
When did you stop beating your wife? I mean, what kind of question is that? The question is, unless you were going to literally take all the blacks from Africa and all the Latins from Latin America out of Europe, there's no way to make the argument. All I'm saying to you is I know what Brazilian football used to be before all those Brazilians were exported to Europe. I know what I saw. I know the talent that was on the field here. That talent is now in Europe. And it was better than what you're seeing on TV today.
The evidence would be, where do you find a European team that dominates with European players? European descended players.
You got to be careful with European, because now there are so many blacks in the Paris suburbs.
No. What I'm saying, European descended. What I'm talking about, not African descended, Latin American descended, whoever descended. I'm talking about European descended.
Show me that country.
People Marine Le Pen would welcome to her house.
Exactly. Show me that country.
Who
What team
that
in
would
Europe
be the evidence.
would do anything without African talent?
Obi said Croatia.
Yeah, Croatia.
I'm not mad at that. Croatia.
Also, there's one that kind of goes against your narrative. And that listen, it's funny because this is beautiful, because you're again doing too much. My question is, what does this have to do with Messi and not even versus? Because I acknowledge, and I acknowledged previously, Pele to me is not even a lesser than Messi. It's not that. I gave my reasons for, and they were purely. I think you could. There's a logic behind them, and there's evidence behind what I was saying in terms of the evolution of the sport and the athletes and et cetera, the tactics, whatever, that make it so that Messi's doing things at a time that the sport is very different than what it was. Right? That's clear. But I don't disregard the Pele. For me, Messi's the best I've ever seen. Now, what everything you just said about Europe and colonialism and all that have to do with that?
No, his point about
Messi,
the colonialism.
Messi,
Robert was arguing that the colonialism had impacted your worldview.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. And how? Yeah. Right. And explain. Yeah. So how? Because I said Messi is like, I gave reasons and you come back with, and you just, this is why I laugh whenever, sorry to be rude, whatever. But if I ask you, okay, what's the evidence you have for this? And you say, what? There's no evidence. I know what I saw. Here's the thing. You can say that, right? Your argument can come down to nostalgia and I know what I saw. And yet when we're talking about players, right? I bring up a bunch of reasons why someone's good, but you come back with nostalgia and I know what I saw. And yet it's seen as like
but Mutanda, the way you're couching the question distorts the issue.
Well, the issue is simple. How does what you're saying, and to Jared's point about you saying that my argument was European centered, I said that Messi was potentially better than Pele, potentially, if you want it, right? Not like, I don't know, give me a white European, not, David Beckham. I didn't say David Beckham was better than Pele. You said this after.
And my response to you was that Messi's from Latin America. That was my response, right? And if you look at the, the Ballon d'Or is not the right measure, but if you look at the quote unquote great players in Europe, and you take out of the equation all Latin players and all African players, what are you left with?
What does that have to do with Messi and Pele? And my opinion on Messi? That's the question that you're not answering.
The chain of the argument that was on WhatsApp, and I don't want to, pull up WhatsApp and go, step by step into that chain of argument. But the basic idea was that I think you said something about the fact that, what was it? Something like capitalism created.
Capitalism can do wonders.
You brought up capitalism. You said
I don't need the products of capitalism in Europe to tell me how great Messi is. So when I read that you said, Robert, to Mutanda, colonialism is impacting your thinking and there's a European bias.
Right.
What I heard was that even though a Latin American derived player in Messi goes to Europe and then becomes what many are saying is the best player ever, was that the bias of him both playing in Europe, being seen and appealing to Europeans and the European world football, and being seen as appealing to players who themselves had a context and a worldview based and dominated in Europe, led to a bias in saying that he's the best ever. That's how I interpreted, Robert, what you were saying in that exchange. And I admit I have an affinity for that argument. I do think Eurocentrism and colonialism and bias can seep in and impact how we view even how the play of a player in a game. But yeah, that's it. That's
a lot of interpretation there, Robert. Is that
what prompted this was Mutanda made the following statement. Is there a player anywhere in the world at any stage of their development who is not in some way a product of capitalism?
That was a response to the long thing that you said. Yes, because I was trying to I was trying to figure out how this got. Yeah, go ahead. We went.
And my response was, that's not a legitimate substitute for critical thinking. I mean,
So who's not thinking critically? What explain? This is what I'm saying. Explain. So hey, I'm here. Just tell me what I'm missing. What am I not getting about what you're saying? Because you still haven't answered what
my whole point was that capitalism and the money generated by it and the concentration of wealth in Europe led to the importation of that talent from Africa and Latin America. That was
Agreed.
my point.
Clear.
Okay.
What does that have to do with Messi being potentially?
So Rob, right? Why wouldn't Messi then be the best player in the world?
I was never in a debate about Messi being the best player in the world. My response was, I don't need colonizers to tell me who's the best. I don't need a European colonizer or whatever, European player to tell me that a player from Latin America is the best that played in Europe. I don't need that. I get enough of that day to day. I don't need that shoved down my throat.
Oh my goodness.
But as long as you understand, Robert, that was in a context of a debate between Messi and Pelé. And that's why Mutanda was sending this stuff about what people are saying about Messi is part of a response to the debate.
I can say that myself, though, Jared, because that's actually not even why. That's not even why.
Oh, well, that's, again, how I saw what was happening. All right, go ahead. All right.
I just got to laugh because here's the thing. I just got to laugh because this is what's funny to me. And I think this is beautiful. You took it personally, or you got offended because all these colonizers.
I didn't get offended. I got offended from the people that were in the videotape.
Yeah, that's
what pissed me off. Okay? Don't get confused. I didn't get pissed at you. I got pissed at the people in the videotape.
I understand. You got offended by these people on the thing who were talking about Messi. You got offended by them, which then led you to go on this huge rant about why you're offended, and I get it. But the funniest to me, it still doesn't address. And you just said you're not you just said it was never about Messi versus Pele, when that's what originated the whole thing. Like, that's what we're talking about. Like, it started there.
But Mutanda, the only person in this conversation who saw Pele play is me. Okay. Aside from the fact that I've been living in Brazil for damn near 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, I have seen a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What can I say? I mean, the only equivalent that comes to mind is, somebody from Europe opining about great basketball talent in the United States. I mean, what? Dude, I grew up in the United States. I don't need a European telling me about great talent in basketball in the United States. I don't need a European telling me about great football talent in Brazil. I mean, there's a point. I know that you don't get offended. Maybe it's because of my age, or maybe it's because, Jared said the same thing. There are times when I lose my patience with Europe and Europeans and their critiques about this sport. I lose my patience. Because basically, Europe has raped Brazil's football program. That's what's happened. They have taken every piece of talent from Brazil and Argentina and whatever country you can possibly imagine, and literally taken them when they're 10, 11, 12 years old. And what we used to see here on a day-to-day basis is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And there's very little chance that it will ever, quote unquote, be recouped. Mm-hmm. So you have to forgive me for being,
that's
pissed
powerful.
at how capitalism works.
That's powerful and that's fair. This is my only retort to that, and it's not to denounce anything you've said, but it's just, again, to point out. So, and this is if it's miscommunication or whatever, when I talk football, not that I think that it exists outside of everything you said and the way the world works, but I'd like to think there are football conversations that we can have that the sport, because everything you say, and this happens a lot with, and Jared said this as well. Maybe this is my own naivete or whatever. This is not racist, right? My ability to do something with this is not the ball's not racist. I can do something with the ball or I can't. The systems with which I play in, everything you just said, yes, that all these things get involved in. We had a discussion about Messi and Pele. My feeling was you had a critique. You clapped back at something that I said, but without really addressing the substance, but almost addressing it like, well, you're not thinking critically, you're thinking with a Euro-centered lens. And I'm like, explain that to me, because I'm saying Messi and Argentinian is potentially the best ever. That's my confusion here. So if you're not saying it's Messi versus Pele, which again, that's fine. And for me, it's not even, again, you can put Pele there. I just didn't feel the need to get into this deeper like diatribe on colonialism to explain it, because I don't think that needs to be explained in that way. To be perfectly honest, I think they stand like it is what it is. Maybe that's just
so let me tell you why I think it's important to involve a political and historical context. I think that generally speaking, the right wing, conservative thought requires the erasure of history in order to maintain its position in terms of hegemony. So when history is erased for whatever reason, the basic result is a reproduction of capitalism. The only way capitalism can reproduce itself is by erasing history. Having said that, Europe, and as you know, Pelé never played in Europe. Never played. Thank God. But, you know, he never played in Europe. After he retired, he played for, I don't know what, 3-4 years in New York. But the point, I think, is that today, Europe is the equivalent in football of what the United States is with respect to military and political hegemony. Football hegemony is in Europe. That's where it is. And it's not a coincidence. Not a coincidence that football is where it is and is dominant where it is. Aside from the fact that, you know, my thesis in the book is that the NFL and FIFA are basically dividing up the world. But having said that, I do think that the United States, not Brazil, the United States, is the only country on the planet today that can rival Europe and potentially create a bipolar world in football. I don't think China will ever get there. I don't think there's another country on the planet that has the financial muscle to counterbalance European hegemony in football. I think the only country to do that is the United States. And if the United States did it, then you potentially could have the Americas with Brazil as an anchor in South America and the United States as an anchor in North America to counterbalance the power that Europe has today. That's the thesis that I have, you know, propounded in the book. So all I'm saying is, you know, that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see that. And as for Pelé versus Maradona, you know, I already told you that I should say Pelé versus Messi. I already said my preference is Maradona over Messi. I've always said that. That's just my preference. And I do think, you know, for what it's worth, yeah, I do think that Pelé was better than Messi. But, you know, that is what it is. We can all have opinions, you know.
Yeah. So Matando, you're trying to make a point that Messi is the best. You used evidence that contained people from Europe, and Robert was basically like, "You can make that point if you want. I just don't want to hear from Europeans."
I don't want to hear from Europe.
Yeah,
which,
it's like, you know,
which I can respect.
Fuck Europe, shit, you know.
So
Right,
basically,
yeah.
so basically, next time Matanda, don't use Frank Lampard, Rio Ferdinand,
No, I didn't
Gary
just use
Lineker,
Europeans, though.
etc. to make the point.
But this is there are not just two, but I'm going to use two because they're noteworthy. Ronaldinho is not European. R9 is not European. the Brazilian fans, a young Messi too. I think he was.
Can we make the point? Can we be serious? Messi's European. He's Argentinian.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
He might as well have been born in Italy or wherever.
Aside from this being a super chat, ZZ Lion has my sentiments closest. Bragging about Messi is no different than bragging about Eminem in a capitalist system. And again, I'm with that on GP.
That's an amazing statement. Yeah.
I would love to get there. I would love to get that person's. Please send another one with your top 5 players. That would be awesome. Yeah, no, listen, but that, you know, I think my response would be simply, I understand Robert being offended by all those Europeans saying it, but then let's be real here. Let's not be deluded, and let's not act like it's just Europeans who think that Messi is that guy. But again, and I don't really care about the Messi versus Pele, because I've said countless times, I'll say it again. I think it's more of a one takes the crown off, but the baton, if you will, in terms of greatness of players in their eras and what they do. But anyway.
I got to get this one in. Yeah. Because this goes back to basketball in the United States. There's all this debate about Michael Jordan's the best player in the NBA of all time, and it's against him and LeBron. And as far as I'm concerned,
where did that accent come from?
Neither of them brothers, neither one of them, as far as I'm concerned, is as good as Jabbar. They don't have Jabbar's track record.
It's wrong, bro.
So, you know, I think that's just my opinion. So, you know, I know everybody has an opinion. You got to have opinions, right? So
I'm fascinated by the reasoning we use to back up the opinions. That's what I'm fascinated by.
Well, you know, so my opinion on Jabbar, high school, college, and NBA. These days, you can't do that. So, you know, what he
Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. Jared, what do you say in response?
It's all irrelevant. None of that's relevant. Not one thing is relevant.
Jabbar would have never got cut.
Plenty of people are good in high school. Doesn't mean that's not how we judge them. And that's fine. You know, it's all right. You could be wrong on that, Robert. It's all good.
So was there any other thing?
This may weaken your argument in defense of Pele, though.
What was left on the
argument? Let's go back to Pele. I mean, my argument on Pele was that when Pele played, he played in Brazil, and Brazil was the best in the world when he played. The talent that was here was the best in the world. So he played with, no question, a lot of people around him that were better than the people that were around both Maradona and Messi. No question about that.
No, wait a minute. If he played, so if you just agreed,
I know.
Hold on. If you just said Europe has raped all of Brazil's talent, and that Europe has bought a lot of talent from outside Africa and all this.
That started in 1982.
Cool. But so were you saying Messi right now, like Messi in that, well, right now he's in MLS, but Messi in his prime at Barcelona wasn't playing against the best players in the world? Are you saying that?
Oh, I didn't say. I said that Pele played with and against, but the teams that supported Pele on the national team,
right?
The people that played with him, were better than the people that played with Messi and Maradona, historically speaking.
Okay, interesting. Even if you want to debate that, how does that mean? Why wouldn't that mean that? So Messi had it harder because he's playing with lesser players?
No, I don't think Messi had it harder. I think, to tell you the truth, I think Messi had it easier because the entire career that Pele had was played before the yellow card existed.
Yeah.
So it was a much more violent game.
That is true. But again, if Messi had the talent on his team that Pele had on his, he would have had more World Cups and more trophies. Because again, what's his name? Whose name I now can't remember. Dude definitely cost them at least one World Cup.
Who is that?
What's his name? Higuain. Come on,
how did he cost them a World Cup?
Because he missed a sitter. He was missing all kinds of stuff. He's missing goals that Pele's teammates would have scored for him and moved in advance. You can't. Come on. There's whole montage videos to this There's multiple tournaments where Higuain cost Messi a trophy. So I'm on your side of the debate, Robert. I'm just saying this isn't the plank I would want us to use for our argument. Because Messi should have more trophies, in which case his argument for best player would be even stronger.
You mean when you say more trophies, you mean more World Cups? Is that what
At
you're
least
saying?
one World Cup, and then there's I believe, what is it, a Copa? There's one of the
They
this
lost to
hemisphere.
Chile both times in Copa America that they probably should have won.
There you go. So
But they didn't.
But they did. But I'm saying, to Robert's point, if
it was so bad in 2016, I think Messi retired, like emotionally.
Yeah, he was like,
from the national team. He's like,
he
I'm out.
said, I'm not doing this no more.
Yeah, I don't.
And then he came back. He came back, and it worked out to his credit.
I would never make. I'm not using. Notice there are certain things I didn't use to make my argument. They're very specific points I made. But here's the thing: I think it's wild to say you're gonna give it. You put Pele on a certain pedestal that you wouldn't put other players because at the time he played with the best. Okay, he had no control over that. He's playing with other good players. But I also think, like, it's not like these cats playing today in Europe or wherever are playing with bad players.
Messi's not in your top 5.
Yeah, this guy. It's interesting.
Well, I wouldn't.
You asked for it.
I wouldn't put Henry there, but that's another story.
But it's So I just
which Ronaldo?
We know
R9.
Don't do that.
R9.
No.
Yeah.
No,
don't do that
R9.
to ZZ.
That's R9.
Don't do that. ZZ.
Do we know he doesn't have Messi in his top 5? Do we know that he's not talking?
We
about
know. ZZ. Don't.
Oh, we know.
Oh, so
I'm convinced he doesn't mean CR7. I'm convinced.
Maybe he doesn't mean CR7.
He means R9. I know ZZ.
I can judge by the timeline. That's what it meant, but like you can't be for sure these days.
No, I get it, but I'm because ZZ is super chatting, and because I know ZZ, I've even met ZZ in person. I'm convinced my guy is on the right time right here. So I'm not worried about that.
Thank you for that chat. Somebody just put about the Barca team that Messi played with. Robert, what say you to that?
The Barca team is the best club team ever.
That team is pretty much universal.
It's certainly in Europe it was. That's for sure.
Hey, hang on, man. Don't be disingenuous.
Certainly in Europe.
Well, they played a Club World Cup too against I think it was Santos when Neymar came up and they destroyed them too, right? So they were the best. They were
Robert. Seriously, what club in the world was better than that Barca team?
Right. 1960 Santos, and look what they did to Benfica. You guys, was that 1962?
Right. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
about
the
that.
issue. The issue is in the early 60s is probably
no. But I thought Mutanda's point was at the time.
I'm saying that in 2011.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. In 2011, that's probably true. Yeah. After they imported everybody in the world to Europe, it's probably true.
We're good. You want to have I understand it now. I understand how to squash beef. You don't want to talk about the football. You want to talk about the colonialism. It's cool. I get you.
Oh, no, listen. I totally want to talk about the football. I mean, there've been some great teams in Europe. There's no question about it. You know,
I
saw the undefeated Arsenal team play. They were bad boys.
Yeah.
No question.
Trash goalkeeper.
I understand you.
The rest are good.
I understand you.
France, when they had Platini and
on the
Tigana, those dudes were bad cats.
What do people think about this? Here's what's interesting to me. So, how many teams? We can look this up officially. How many teams were in the World Cup? So they won it in 70 as well. Which I'm watching that. Like I'm watching that game because I wasn't there, Robert. You're right, but we have eyes. We can watch the tape. Thankfully.
There were 16 teams in the 1970 World Cup.
Thank you. 16 teams. Okay. So now
75 teams entered the qualification and 16 spots were distributed among the continental zones.
So we
9
can all
to Europe,
agree.
3 to South America, 2 to North Central America this side, 1 to Africa, 1 to Asia and Oceania.
So in 1970, you have less
trash
in terms of like an elite group of nations playing the sport, right? You have less.
Let's talk about the World Cup going to Saudi Arabia quickly. But sorry, Mutanda.
No, I'm just saying that this is not even about the best ever. I'm just thinking the logic here. Like, you can put whoever you want as best ever, but let's think about the logic here. Undoubtedly, do we disagree that the game has grown and more nations are capable of actually producing not just quality players but quality teams? Like, do we understand that or no? Is that a debate, controversial thing to say?
I don't think so. This wouldn't be
I don't think it's
this wouldn't be the
controversial.
argument I would be using to make my point about Pele, because or I would amend it to say you have to judge people in their time. If Pele grew up as Messi did with all of the nutritional sports training, emphasis, funding, resources specifically from as early an age. When Pele was as young as Messi, he's playing in the
Private
street with no
planes.
socks and shoes,
Yeah.
private planes, all of the steroids they put in that little, come on now, all that, whatever they were doing to him to help him grow all that other kind of
Human
stuff.
growth hormone.
Growth hormones.
I mean, as much as anyone could be engineered to be a great footballer, Messi got that life.
You have to like his torso looks weird, Matanda. Like,
now he also
Yeah.
did have, but I'll grant you, he also had to compete against a greater pool of talent than Pele had to.
Right.
Whoa.
That I think so.
This is what I'm saying. How is this not obvious?
He said,
Well, but it's
"Whoa."
obvious to you because you got a different lens.
But why wouldn't it be obvious though, Robert? Even with your point about Europe raping the colonial territories, that doesn't mean more people aren't being produced as better players. So it's the world by design. You have more people putting more resources and more.
You did start out
with
saying,
more,
Robert, that potentially there's a billion people playing the game.
Yeah, I mean, you have
That
so
was
many
one of
more
the
people
earlier
playing and being resourced to play and being able to look at Pele's training tapes and build from that. So they have all of that he did not have.
Right. But that doesn't fit the narrative. So go ahead, Robert. You disagree with that obvious point?
No, I'm just saying that, I think there's no question about the fact that the average player today is better than the average player 50 years ago.
And there are more players around the world playing.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that either.
So then to do what someone, I'm not even going to argue Messi, Pele. Let's take anybody. It's hard to win football games, full stop. And now when pretty much damn near the entire world is playing, how are we going to look at someone who has dominance over an extended period of time in this modern game and be like, oh yeah, they can never chat to anybody in a different era? But
this is the same reason why I said, in many ways, people saying LeBron is better than Michael leave out the fact that there is no LeBron without Michael. There is in the same way I would say there is no Messi without Pele. The game, not just in terms of quality of play, but in exporting the game, making it more popular, making more people, making these rich corporations realize there's even more exploitation they can engage in. It changes the landscape. It forces, and that's why I said Michael Jordan also programmed the defeater for LeBron in having Jokic emerge out of Europe to be better. No, I don't know, man. I'm just saying.
That's a beautiful point. But that, Jared, if we follow the logic on that, and I completely agree with you, this is why I said what I said about, to me, it's not even so much a versus, it's a passing of the baton of greatness from one era to another, right? Because if you're now in an era where all of the advances in technology, all of the catering that these players get, all this stuff that we know that we can speak to now, in terms of just output and performance levels, you have to have somebody to look up to. And what Pele and others did, Maradona, of course, we know Messi was influenced by Maradona. It's by virtue of the shirt he wears, right? But that to me doesn't necessarily mean that the guy who comes before, in this case, right? This is all I'm saying, is that the guy who comes before doesn't necessarily mean that he was better. It's just that he did it before and now potentially gives the baton to somebody else who could do it better. Whether you want to say he's better or not, what? But the argument of like, oh, well, Pele played against the very best. Yeah, well, so are these cats now. And they're playing against more. Croatia, just to make this point even more. Croatia is a country, I don't know what, 4 million people maybe? Not a big country. the last 2 World Cups, they've gotten to the Final Four. And they got to the final, not this last World Cup, but the year before, right? Morocco got to a World Cup, what was it, semifinal? Like the amount, the way that the global distribution of talent, right? And not to completely go backwards, but to just kind of link things. And this is why my big thing about you can't call the U.S. a third world soccer country, etc. The global distribution of talent is insane. There are good players everywhere. There are good players everywhere. Now, the systems in place and all of that everything that we've said and that, Robert, that you say, that you wrote about in your book, the systems are in place that make it, in some situations, difficult for a certain level of talent to come to fruition. 100% agreed. And obviously, certain places hoard it. But what we can't do is this, oh, yeah, see, that nobody can be as good as Pelé because he played against the very best. Dude, all the players today are very good, and there are more of them. So, like, and to have a cat who's 5'6" dominate that for a decade plus, come on, what are we doing?
That's why I tried to tell you guys there's a difference between best and greatest. Best is more of a linear progression, because I do think things in sports anyway get better with time because people are building off of the examples that they've had before. Greatness is more a measure of how do you dominate within the context of the era that you played. And that, if you judge Pelé against his competition and what he was able to do against those people, I don't think you can make an argument that there's been a greater player than him. But if you just talk about who's best, who can do things with the ball at their feet based on the advantages that they had, I would say Messi's the answer.
Sounds logical to me.
That's how I cut the baby anyway.
If I go play a pickup game with some random, and this is not to disparage Pelé at all, because this is not what it is. It's not a one-runner, but follow me here. A lot of people can go play a pickup game and be the best cat in the yard, all right? Because it's maybe the levels or whatever. But then if I take that same player and I go play against guys who are at a similar level, the soccer looks different. I may not even stand out as much, right? But I'm playing because everybody's there. But now to do that and stand out, and again, if you don't want to listen to the Europeans, listen to Ronaldinho. Ronaldinho is one of the most aesthetically pleasing players that I've ever seen. He's just a joy to watch when he was on. He was one of my favorite players. And for me, Messi's better than him, but in terms of just pleasure, Ronaldinho, Zidane, Henry, those are the guys. Those are the three that just gave me just joy. Ronaldinho came out when this cat was 17 at Barca. And by the way, this is also in the video. There's a section when Kobe was talking. And he said, yeah, y'all think I'm good? There's a cat here who's better than me. That's Ronaldinho. That's not a European, right? Yes, this day, Brazilian fans applauding Messi like he's a teenager here. He's a teenager. So my whole thing is, yes, we can talk about, I know we can't remove politics from this conversation. We can't remove the colonialism aspect. I get that. But you got to just hold up your hands sometimes and say, listen, there's greatness to be recognized here. If you don't want to put somebody as number one, that's fine. And man, I understand for nostalgic reasons, for many reasons why you wouldn't. I understand. Pelé is royalty to me. But to Daniel's point, some things some people can do haven't been done to the level that is being done right. Like it just hasn't been done. Anyway, that was my point.
All right. We good, fellas? Anything else?
We're not gonna get to Saudi? Okay.
Oh no, well, let's get to it. What
You went off.
2034. What did I miss on this? Did this come
No,
up in the chat?
what do you guys think about FIFA working the schedule to where Saudi Arabia gets their own World Cup? Do you know what?
2034. So
you mean working the schedule? I mean, there was nobody bidding against Saudi Arabia.
No. So because Qatar had a World Cup, so that meets the Asia obligation, let's say. And they know 26 is going to North America, so Canada, United States, and Mexico. Because the 2030 World Cup is the centennial of the 1930, they're playing the tournament. They're playing games in South America, so that takes one continent. Obviously, they don't play games in. I don't know. Well, actually, I don't know what's going on. Well, Australia counts as Asia, so that works that way. But there are games being played in Europe, Africa, and South America to basically check off those continents. If we've been to those continents, that way in 2034 they can have another World Cup in Asia, which would then go to Saudi Arabia. So the 2030 World Cup checks off 3 continents when there's only 5 available options. So they did that shuffling of Paraguay, Argentina, and Uruguay are going to get to play one game, and then those teams will fly to Morocco, Portugal, and Spain and play 2030 there, which then opens up a new bidding process, which then Saudi Arabia then walks into. What was interesting for me is I saw one of the journalists write something about, top 5 reasons why I hate the World Cup going to Saudi Arabia. And my mind was like, okay, so where are these articles for the United States one? Like, can we do a top 5 of, no access to healthcare, gun violence, militarism, imperialism, capitalism, racism?
Right, because the New York Times is even talking about human rights groups are worried about it going to Saudi Arabia. What about here?
So we're just jumping over
Mm-hmm.
the human rights violations of the United States. Like, how come? Like, it's cool if you want to talk about the human rights violations and how the stadiums have been built in either Qatar or how they're going to be built in Saudi Arabia, but are we just blind to America's effects? Like, and are we not going to discuss the problems that's going to happen in 2 years?
No, of course.
It just shows you who controls the base and superstructure.
Well, but they're also showing it here. They're showing the Saudi ruler sitting with Putin
and the FIFA
and Infantino.
And Infantino, but as if he's not sitting there on a boatload of U.S. purchased weaponry, or oil,
right?
Or you know what I mean? Like it's that's wild.
And you notice this thing with it happened with Qatar, where it's just like, there's against LGBT, there's this whole that stuff. But it's like, if you come to the United States, I mean, is it Oberfilger? What's the case that's probably going to end up in the Supreme Court within the next 4 years? It's probably going to put gay marriage in the hands of the states. Is it Oberfilger? What's something?
I actually don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those weird ones. But like, I can imagine in the next few years, the law that was passed in the Obama administration, it's not long for federal law anyway. So it's not surprising or shocking how this happens, but it's curious to me anyway.
It's like this question that just showed up here. Why is Israel still in FIFA?
No, more importantly, because this is a super chat, Kenyatta is correct about Pele being the best ever. And
fair enough,
because they paid for the right to say it, they're correct. But no, why is Israel still in FIFA? All of these are really good points. I mean, it's clear that when the World Cup comes to this country, it's being done a favor by being brought to the United States. But when it goes somewhere else, it's blasphemy.
And one thing that a lot of the football journalists talk about is, the abuses of human rights in building the stadiums. They keep track of how many people died in Qatar, or how many people may die as a result of whatever stadiums they're going to build in Saudi Arabia. And I'm like, yeah, of course. And then let's look at how American stadiums are built, what they're built on, the wealth that generates the money to build an AT&T stadium or a RFK or whatever it is. So if you want to talk about stadiums, and then the taxpayer money that goes to build these stadiums, where should that money be going at the expense of the people? So like, people are just blind anyway to how America works, because that's just how it works. But when it's done in an Arab way, it's like, oh my God, like, shit's ending.
And Cynical's raising a nice point here about, and thanks for the super chat. Do you think they're using sports like they use music as a soundtrack to a coup d'etat? So first of all, yes, and we've talked about already the sports washing that goes into this. But then the flip side, if I can flip this question a little bit, they've also done the same thing with using music to help the sports washing of the World Cup. And I'm thinking in particular back when Kanan did that song,
Waving Flag.
Waving Flag. And just to double back with the Amy Goodman thing, he also years ago, and I'm still kind of pissed, not kind of, I'm still bothered by this. He went on Amy Goodman's Democracy Now, where she asked him a question, a very anti-black, anti-Pan-African question, and invited him to compare rappers in this country talking about the horrific experiences they suffer, while he, coming out of Rwanda, no,
Somalia.
Somalia,
Yeah.
knew real suffering and was therefore a more authentic voice using rap music to talk about the suffering of African people. And I was like, so why? And then he accepted the bait by saying, yeah, they rappers over here, they don't know nothing about suffering, but I know real suffering. And I was like, wow, that's a wild, unnecessary, nonsensical take. And then he turned, and then to turn around and sell your song for a Coca-Cola commercial and a World Cup commercial. I was like, I'm still bothered by that. And I'm like, so to Cynical's question, all of that is going on all of the time.
That's news to me that he went on Amy Goodman's show.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
I'm not doubting it. I just think that.
Go check it back. It's whatever years ago, but he did it. They did an in studio live performance somewhere around there. He did a live performance, and so we saw him perform. Then he did a whole sit down interview, and I remember that because I went relatively, for my thing, and I was on WPFW in DC at the time, and I had a show that followed Amy Goodman's on our channel, and I would be like, yo, that was crazy. And that was, and again, while you're using an art form emanated out of the African experience here in the United States, you're using it to condemn Africans in the United States. And then you turn around and sell your song like that. Like, you're not even doing nothing. I was like that. And in an interview with Amy Goodman, like, of all places to do that, it was crazy. So,
yeah. Wow.
I mean, so like of course, there's things to be critical about Saudi soft power moving into the sporting world. You can look at F1, you could look at golf and the Live tournament. You can look at these tournaments like I think the Spanish Super Cup, which used to be normally Real Madrid against Barcelona. They made it a 14 tournament, and I believe those games are played, if not in Saudi Arabia, somewhere in the Gulf. So of course they're moving in there and trying to normalize themselves to the world.
And then are we going to get another summertime World Cup? Is that how they're going to do it again?
It's probably going to be in January rather than the summer because
I meant that's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
A winter time. Right.
Because let's just put a summer tournament in the desert. That makes sense, Infantino. So,
hey,
how
big was that check?
At least this is proving my point that Sepp Blatter was not an evil, bro. Shout out Sepp Blatter, bro, because at least his corruption brought a World Cup to South Africa, which was good. even if South Africans were like, wait, we're spending all this money to build stadiums that nobody's going to use when we don't have roads, we don't have healthcare, we don't have education. So the money that was allocated to South Africa, the South Africans weren't happy with. But like as an African, it was kind of fun to see, or hear the vuvuzelas and see all of the pageantry, which is ultimately the point. So Visa
it's even worse than I thought.
And McDonald's can sell you stuff and et cetera, et cetera. Go for it.
No, it's even worse than I thought. He did this in Black August, August 6th of 2009. That's the episode.
Oh my goodness!
So you get the live performance.
He's Somali and Canadian. I remember that.
Somali Canadian, yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. So that's the episode. Folks can check.
It's a good song though. I don't know if it's,
that was all
I don't know if it's the and somebody just put the comment about Shakira taking Afro.
Did she?
A Colombian whatever and making that into basically making it into her whole career. But that's another discussion.
Shakira catching strays. Who knew? A global hip hop artist. Yes.
What was the name of that song that Disney stole from?
From the South Africans.
Was it from South Africa? Was that the song?
Yeah,
I thought it was a song that was in The Lion King, wasn't it? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, no.
Fuck the
Well,
Lion King. Fuck the Lion King. Let me just
maybe
say
that
that.
too. Yeah, fuck that too. But
Okay, the
I thought
Lion
it was
King, bro.
the Lion King is
I mean,
all that
I'm
piece, all
not
of
here.
them.
I'm just talking about theft.
No. I'm here to say fuck the Lion King. I hate
Oh,
that
okay.
movie so much.
I mean,
I
you
just quickly. Apropos nothing. I know it's late. Why is it the only animal that has an African accent? The ape.
Oh, you're
Very
this
good,
is,
Daniel.
No, but this is where I feel old.
Daniel gets 10
this
points
is,
for that. Well, you get a gold star for that one, Daniel.
but this
I'm not new
is
here. I'm not new here.
No,
I'm just
no,
bringing
no.
the point.
No, of course. But this people, I don't know. Robert would be the only one old enough to remember this, I think. But in the early '80s, there was that. Remember, I think it was that long ago when AT&T had its scandal where it produced like a map of its. I think it's like it was meant to its coverage of the world, and every part of the world was represented by a human except for the continent of Africa, which was represented by an ape.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
And
I don't remember that one. Shit.
yeah.
And
So like
it's
it's a long tradition of that kind of bullshit.
and it's not even that it's an ape. It's like what the ape does. What Rafiki does. He's out here breaking
Yeah.
oranges and doing witchcraft and shit. It's like this is their opinion of African people for real.
It's the
because
step and fetch it in animal cartoon form. It's
exactly.
That's why Eddie Murphy played the donkey in Shrek and did Coonan in cartoon. You know, everybody. I mean, it's like
baboons
the
not
whole,
apes or mandrills, because I know it was a mandrill. I
don't know.
just said ape. but
Shout out to
it's
the
a
band
mandrill to be
Mandrill.
technical.
My
Mama's
thing,
Biscuits covered a mandrill song. Just
in
reminding
addition
everybody.
to that,
I hate the Lion King, dog.
in addition to that, Daniel, I was always like even younger, I was like, why does Nala have blue eyes? What's going on here?
Speaking of, do
They
you know
did steal Kimba. That's right, Kenyatta.
Why does Nala have blue
you know
eyes?
just the elephant of Alabama football has blue eyes.
The elephant of Alabama football.
Yeah. No. Number one, why is the Crimson Tide mascot an elephant? But that it has blue eyes. Maybe
I
that
didn't know
happens
that.
in nature.
I didn't
but
know
like,
they had
come
a
on.
mascot.
Come on. And speaking of that, I'm just going through all my whole
Yeah,
list
go
of-
through
of
them.
Let it
complaints.
out,
Lay
bro.
it out. Let it out.
That's
Let it
almost
out.
as bad as Jesus Christ
Do
having
you guys
blue
watch
eyes and blonde
Babar,
hair.
or have you ever watched Babar?
Of course.
Oh,
Why are there
sure,
no
yeah.
Africans? I realized that the elephants are black people. That's why I realized
I'll be
Well,
damned.
snap!
I
They're the
never
blue.
noticed
Yeah,
that.
they're the blue eyes right there.
there are no black people in Babar, despite that. Like it's crazy. They replaced black people with the elephants. Tarzan too. I don't think there are black people in Tarzan, but there are gorillas. It's a whole thing. It's a whole
there's
thing that Disney does.
you see Africans running around, you know.
Do you in Tarzan? Are they in Tarzan?
Oh
Are you
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about the Tarzan movies from the 1960s or
yeah.
50s?
Because that was that you
When
have
I was a kid,
to
the cartoon is what I'm talking about. But
Oh,
anyway.
the cartoon. I don't think I ever saw
Well, I
that.
remember there was no black people in George of the Jungle. That cartoon, Georgia the Jungle, something. But you need the Africans in the Tarzan
Ricky,
movie
no, I'm not
to
going to
drive
relax
home
on
the
Babar,
fact.
bro, because there are people in Babar, and they even live with the old white woman. But there are no Africans in the movie, and because they replaced African people with the animals, so Babar is like he's the French guy or the like a Hoyfid Boigny type, and the Ivory Coast are called Les Elephants, but that's a different thing. But he's in cahoots with the whites. Meanwhile, they have Retaxis, who's the rhino. And he's like the African general who's all mad, and it's a whole thing I could get into. But
this really hurts you, huh, bro? Babar really
bro, I loved Babar when I was a kid, but then watching it as an adult, I'm like, oh man, like I see what they're up to.
Rao,
I don't know
Prince
how
of
Jared
Egypt,
watches anything given what he writes about. Like, how does it just?
Oh, I have
everything
problems.
must
It's
infuriate you.
It does, and my
Unless
children
you
to
love
this
it.
day joke me because I stop all the movies and have rants in all the movies. I'm like, I can't let that go. And Rao, Prince of Egypt I wrote a movie review of the Prince of Egypt when it came out in theaters back in the day. That was my one and only movie review for the campus newspaper. at Frostburg State University, where I would eventually go on to be the drummer for the Western Maryland's greatest funk band between 1997 and 1999. But I wrote my review of Prince of Egypt, and it caused some problems for me with the little press crew, because I was like, this is some colonial stealing of African history. I was like, what is this? This is like the whitest Egyptians ever. I was like, this is the crazy. And do you remember the scene, how they explain the Sphinx's nose being knocked off?
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
Ramses and
what did they
Moses
say?
They say
They-
Moses and Ramses, roughhousing, playing games in the streets of Egypt, and they run a chariot and knock the nose off. I
Oh,
said,
that-
God,
that
in
is
the theater. I was like,
amazing.
in
I
the
have no
theater,
idea.
like, God damn, you gotta be
Jesus
kidding.
Christ, that's unbelievable.
Disney, boy. That Nazi, Walt Disney Nazi from the grave is still
Prince of
getting
Egypt.
victories.
Is Dreamcast? Excuse my.
Oh, that
ignorance.
wasn't Disney. Maybe I was.
No,
Maybe
yeah,
I'm remembering
is
wrong.
Dreamcast Disney? Because
I don't know.
Yeah,
I blame everything with Disney.
DreamWorks, you mean?
DreamWorks. Sorry,
Maybe you're
DreamWorks.
right. Maybe it wasn't.
Dream-
Maybe
but
it was.
yeah. But
But
here's
still, yeah.
But you know what's interesting
Anyway.
though? This is fascinating because like what Daniel just said about like how does Jared or any of us who are like super like trying to decolonize whatever, sometimes you just watch something that you know is messed up, but you're just like, I know what they're doing here, but damn, this is amazing. And the one that Jared, you remember this? I remember this episode very
Yeah,
clearly.
it's DreamWorks.
When you did a review of what was it? It was when you did a review of the second Top Gun. Yes, and I'm right there with you because I watched it and I'm like, and I knew what I was watching, but I was like, this is slick. This is.
Oh yeah, no, they know how to
this is
push the
so-
buttons.
This is so well done. Like it's a military recruitment tool, right? It's unbelievable. But the fighter jet action and everything in it, and for people who saw the first Top Gun, this is a sequel that was good. Like sometimes sequels don't live up. This lived up. Like they did everything. So sometimes you just have to watch something and be like, listen, this is terrible.
That's when you have to be more critical. If you like it,
100%.
it's got to be more critical because they
True.
found a way to sneak some shit past you, or to find the buttons to find your buttons to push.
But that's the thing is you could still identify those buttons and know that this is what's happening and still be like, oh man, that was a scene.
Off the top of your head, Jared, do you have a good critical analysis or maybe something that's been written that you know of like Lawrence of Arabia?
Oh, Edward Said, didn't he write about that?
I have no idea.
I would start.
I want to read it because I watched the
I'd
other
have
day.
to double check
so-
that.
You watched the movie the other day?
Yeah.
Let me. Didn't he write about that in
I was like, this looks
Orientalism?
amazing, but I'm not sure about the history or politics that's being given to me here. So
Oh man. Let me just. That would be my first thought. Oh man. Yeah. So I just a quick Google. Somebody said, let me just pull this up to share with what I'm looking at here. Man, my memory is trash. I'm surprised I remember this much. So let's see. Lawrence of Arabia, The Problem of Modern Heroism, and Edward Said's Countercritical Assessment of Orientalism. So I don't know if Sarita Diang is referencing something that Edward Said said about the film, or using what Said said to talk about the film. I'd have to.
JR, do us a favor and put that link in the WhatsApp.
Sure. And if anybody knows in the chat has an answer for this question, please share it. I did hit that in the WhatsApp. I haven't read this piece. I just did a quick Google to see if and where's my book? Now I gotta go find.
just came to me, so I was like, maybe I'll ask it in real time. So
Obi would know. Obi, so he did write about it. And yeah. First paragraph. Oh, I know it quotes Said in the first paragraph, but was that a quote about Said talking about the film? It is. I think it is. I just wasn't. I'm just moving.
That
too
was
fast
in the book
here.
Orientalism.
Yeah. So it says here in his work, T.E. Lawrence's that is, we can see most clearly the conflict between narrative, history, and vision. The great drama of Lawrence's work is that it symbolizes the struggle first to stimulate the Orient, lifeless, timeless, forceless, into movement. Second, to impose upon the movement and essentially Western shape, Third, to contain the new and aroused Orient in a personal vision whose retrospective mode includes a powerful sense of failure. So yeah, Edward
Also,
Said
it was
Orientalism.
it was in Orientalism. Yeah.
Okay.
I love that book, and I love the documentary that Sut Jali and them made about Orientalism with Said when he was still alive from Media Educational Foundation.
That's an incredible organization, isn't it?
It at least, yeah, it has been. I don't know the state of it, but they've
made some amazing documentaries.
Oh, absolutely,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And my only problem was never mind. I'll leave that out. But he even has a new one out about what's been going on with the propaganda around the genocide in Palestine.
In Gaza?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how many documentaries they get out.
Yeah. But yeah. So Said would be. That's of course, but beyond that, I'm sure I don't know. Beyond that, what more has been written. I've actually, it's funny you mentioned that, not too long ago watched a video essay on YouTube about the history of the film on one of these history YouTube channels, but it wasn't a Saidian analysis, which I would prefer. So
anyway.
All right, fellas, this is always a pleasure. I'm still looking forward to that live version of this from Robert's living room. But
you were threatening in the WhatsApp about a trip to Brazil this year, or was it next year?
It is possible. I've said, look, so we do plan trips as a family, and there's some discussion still on the table for what might happen in 2025. And if I knew, for instance, for real, if I knew that the four of us wanted to plan and could legitimately plan to link up somewhere, I would put that on the family table and, see what I could do to wave my influence around. It's limited in the house. It's definitely limited, but that would be where I'm, so I'm open to it. It's still, we still have not solidified things. So if that's ever a possibility, I'm definitely down. And thank you.
The only thing we didn't talk about was Botafogo.
Stay blessed. What didn't we talk about?
Botafogo, the team from Rio that just won the Brazilian national championship and just won the Copa Libertadores.
I can't. I have nothing I can say about it. Did you want to just say something about it?
No, or? I mean, we can save it for next time. Not a big deal.
I mean, I'm big on homework. I like the homework assignment. So if we ever, if you ever want us to focus on something,
Daniel doesn't co-sign that.
No.
Oh no.
I'm playing.
Okay, my bad. All right,
Daniel doesn't like homework.
Homework.
I like a little something that we can all focus on to center the conversation around a document that we've all watched or read or listened to.
Right.
Do you guys now? Jared may remember this, but do you remember a program on television called Dobie Gillis?
No.
You should go to YouTube and check it out. Dobie Gillis was a sitcom that I think was in the early 60s. It just reminded me of something you said about Daniel not wanting to do homework. There was this character in Dobie Gillis named Maynard G. Krebs. And Maynard G. Krebs. Yeah. You should. I'm sure there's some entire chapters of this series on YouTube. But one of the lines that Maynard G. Krebs always said was, when Dobie Gillis's father used to talk to Maynard, he used to always talk about getting a job and say, "When are you going to get a job? When are you going to do some work, Maynard?" And Maynard would always say, "Work, work," and freak out about the word work. So it's kind of an analogy for not wanting to do homework. But having said that, gentlemen, having said that, you had to be there.
Yeah, appreciate you. Please check the links in the show description for more on all of everybody gathered here. And please like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Thanks for those who came through live tonight and those who will see this later. Peace and welcome and thanks to you as well. As always, peace only if you're willing to fight for it, as Fred Hampton used to say. And we will catch you next time for another football. What was the name of the show we were starting to give it? One of you had come up with a name. Something.
Daniel, do you have a name?
There
Daniel
were
has.
no. There were a bunch of names. Somebody sent you an email or something that had like.
Well, we
hella
got to
names.
pick one though.
Yeah.
Well, let's pick one. The football show. And we'll catch you next time here at I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.